Today's update is important, and it deserves your full attention. Over the past several weeks, many seniors across the United States have started receiving unexpected letters and notices from the Social Security Administration. Some of these notices arrived quietly in the mail. Others appeared suddenly in online Social Security accounts. What caught people off guard is that these notices talk about payment changes that were never clearly announced on the news, never explained in a big public statement, and never broken down in a simple way for everyday people. That confusion has caused worry, frustration, and in some cases, real financial stress. This explanation is here to clarify what is happening, why these Social Security Administration notices matter, and how these payment changes can affect your monthly income now and in the months ahead. Many seniors depend on Social Security as their main source of income. For some, it is the only money coming in each month. When anything changes, even a small amount, it can affect rent, groceries, medication, utilities, and basic peace of mind. That is why these Social Security Administration notices feel so unsettling. They often use formal language, technical terms, and references to rules that most people have never been clearly taught. Some notices talk about adjustments, recalculations, offsets, or corrections, without ever saying in plain language what that actually means for the check you receive. Understanding these letters is the first step toward protecting yourself. One of the biggest reasons these changes feel like a surprise is that they are not always new laws. In many cases, the Social Security Administration is applying existing rules in a new way, correcting past records, or updating information based on data they recently received. That can include income reports, benefit coordination with other programs, or changes in eligibility categories. Because these adjustments happen quietly in the background, many seniors only find out once their payment amount changes, or they receive a notice explaining what already happened. A common theme in these Social Security Administration notices is recalculation. Recalculation means the Social Security Administration is reviewing your benefit record and deciding whether the amount you have been receiving matches what their system now shows as correct. This does not always mean you did something wrong. Sometimes the Social Security Administration updates earnings records from past years. Sometimes they correct old mistakes. Sometimes they apply rules related to other benefits you receive. But the result can be a change in your monthly payment, either up or down. And sometimes even a notice saying you were overpaid or underpaid in the past. Another major issue explained in these notices involves coordination between different benefit programs. Many seniors receive more than one type of benefit, such as retirement benefits, disability benefits, spousal benefits, or supplemental security income. Each of these programs has its own rules, and when information changes in one area, it can affect another. For example, a change in reported income, housing situation, or marital status can trigger an adjustment. The problem is that these connections are rarely explained clearly in advance, so the notice feels sudden and unexpected. Some Social Security Administration notices also mention cost of living adjustments in a way that confuses people. Most seniors expect cost of living increases to raise their payments, but that is not always how it works in practice. When Medicare premiums, income-related adjustments, or benefit offsets are applied at the same time, the increase may be smaller than expected or not visible at all. In some cases, the notice explains why the payment did not go up as much as expected, even though the cost of living continues to rise. This can feel like a broken promise if you were counting on that increase. Another reason these notices are causing concern is timing. Many seniors received notices after the change had already taken effect. That means people saw a smaller deposit or a different amount in their bank account before they fully understood why. Receiving a notice after the fact creates anxiety and makes it harder to plan. When you do not know what is happening ahead of time, it is difficult to budget, adjust expenses, or decide whether to contact the Social Security Administration for clarification. There is also the issue of overpayment notices, which have been especially alarming. Some seniors have received letters stating that the Social Security Administration believes they were paid too much in the past and now owes money back. These notices often explain that the overpayment resulted from corrected information, updated income data, or changes in eligibility. Even when the amount is small, the idea of owing money back to the government is frightening, especially for people on fixed incomes. These notices can make it seem like punishment even when the issue is administrative. At the same time, some notices explain underpayments. In these cases, the Social Security Administration acknowledges that you were paid less than you should have been and may issue a correction. While that sounds like good news, it can still be confusing. Seniors often wonder why the mistake happened in the first place, how long it went unnoticed, and whether future payments will remain accurate. Trust becomes an issue when changes happen quietly and explanations come later. Another important topic covered in these notices is verification. The Social Security Administration has increased efforts to verify information, including income, living arrangements, and benefit eligibility. When verification happens, it can temporarily delay payments or trigger changes once the review is complete. Notices related to verification may sound routine, but they can have real financial effects if action is required or deadlines are missed. Unfortunately, the language used does not always clearly state what you need to do or how urgent the situation is. Many seniors also report confusion around notices that reference electronic records or online accounts. Some notices encourage people to check their online Social Security account for details, but not everyone is comfortable using digital systems. This can leave people feeling excluded or unsure where to find accurate information. When the notice does not fully explain the change on paper, it increases stress for those who rely on traditional mail and phone communication. What makes all of this more difficult is that these changes are happening during a time of high inflation and rising living costs. Even small payment adjustments can feel much bigger when groceries, rent, utilities, and medical expenses keep increasing. Seniors are already stretching every dollar, so unexpected changes hit harder. These Social Security Administration notices may seem technical on the surface, but their impact is deeply personal. Understanding these notices requires patience and careful reading. Many of them include key details buried in the middle or near the end of the letter, important information about effective dates, reasons for the change, and your rights may not be highlighted clearly. This is why so many seniors feel overwhelmed and unsure about what the notice actually means for their day-to-day life. The goal here is to help you understand why these Social Security Administration notices exist and why the payment changes feel unannounced. They are often the result of internal updates, rule applications, and data corrections rather than new public laws. That does not make them any less important. In fact, it makes it even more important for seniors to stay informed, read notices carefully, and understand how these changes can affect their financial stability. Now that you understand why these Social Security Administration notices are appearing and why the payment changes feel sudden, it is just as important to focus on what you can do next and how to protect yourself moving forward. When a notice arrives from the Social Security Administration, the most important thing to remember is not to panic. Even though the language can sound serious or alarming, most notices are informational. They are meant to explain an adjustment, a review, or a correction, not to accuse or threaten you. Staying calm allows you to read carefully and understand what the notice actually says. The first thing every senior should do when receiving a Social Security Administration notice is to read it slowly from beginning to end. It may be tempting to skip ahead to the numbers or focus only on the payment amount, but the explanation matters. Somewhere in the letter, the Social Security Administration explains why the change happened, even if the wording is not simple. Look for phrases that mention recalculation, updated records, income verification, or coordination with other benefits. These phrases usually point to the reason your payment changed. Understanding the reason helps you decide whether action is needed. Many notices also include effective dates, which are extremely important. The effective date tells you when the change started or when it will start. Sometimes the change has already happened, and sometimes it is scheduled for a future month. Knowing the timing helps you adjust your budget and avoid surprises. Seniors who miss this detail often feel caught off guard again when the next payment arrives. Another key part of these notices is your right to ask questions or request a review. The Social Security Administration does not always emphasize this clearly, but you generally have the right to contact them if you believe the information is incorrect or unclear. This does not mean you are challenging the system aggressively. It simply means you are asking for clarification or correction if something does not match your situation. Keeping copies of your notices and any related documents is very important in case you need to follow up. If the notice mentions an overpayment, it is especially important to read carefully. Overpayment notices often explain how the Social Security Administration believes the overpayment occurred and what amount they believe is owed. They may also explain how repayment would work if no action is taken. What many seniors do not realize is that you usually have options. You may be able to request a review, explain your situation, or ask for a different repayment arrangement if repayment is required. Ignoring the notice can make the situation worse, so understanding it early is critical. For notices involving underpayments, the Social Security Administration may explain that a correction will be made automatically. In some cases, a one-time adjustment is issued, and in others, future payments are adjusted. Even when the notice brings good news, it is still worth confirming that the correction makes sense based on your history. Underpayments raise questions about accuracy, and it is reasonable to want reassurance that future payments will be correct. Verification-related notices deserve special attention. These notices often ask the Social Security Administration to confirm details such as income, living arrangements, or eligibility factors. Sometimes no action is required, but sometimes you must respond by a certain date. Missing a deadline can lead to payment delays or suspensions. The notice usually explains what information is needed, even if it is not written clearly. If you are unsure, contacting the Social Security Administration or seeking trusted assistance can prevent unnecessary problems. One of the most frustrating aspects of Social Security Administration notices is how impersonal they feel. They rarely acknowledge how stressful financial uncertainty can be, especially for older adults. It helps to remember that these notices are generated by systems and rules, not personal judgments. The goal of the Social Security Administration is to ensure payments match their records, even though the process can feel harsh. Understanding this can make the experience slightly less overwhelming. It is also important to be aware of scams that take advantage of this confusion. Whenever there is news about Social Security Administration payment changes, scammers become more active. They may contact seniors claiming to help resolve issues or speed up payments. Real Social Security Administration notices do not demand immediate payment through unusual methods, and they do not threaten arrest. If something feels suspicious, it is better to pause and verify before responding. Protecting yourself includes knowing that not every message claiming to be about Social Security is legitimate. Another practical step seniors can take is to keep their information updated. Changes in address, marital status, income sources, or banking information can all affect benefits. When the Social Security Administration receives updated data from other agencies or sources before hearing directly from you, it can trigger adjustments. Keeping your information current reduces the chance of unexpected recalculations later. While this does not eliminate all surprises, it can prevent some of the most confusing ones. Budgeting becomes even more important during periods of uncertainty. When notices suggest that payments may change, it is wise to review monthly expenses and identify areas where flexibility exists. This does not mean cutting essentials, but it does mean being aware of how small changes can affect your overall financial picture. Preparation helps reduce stress if adjustments continue or if further reviews occur. It is also helpful to talk openly about these notices with trusted family members or advisors. Many seniors feel embarrassed or worried about burdening others, but discussing the situation can bring clarity and support. Someone else may notice details you missed or help you think through next steps. These conversations can turn confusion into confidence. The bigger picture behind these Social Security Administration notices is a system under pressure. As more people rely on benefits, and as data systems become more interconnected, adjustments and corrections are becoming more common. That does not mean the system is failing, but it does mean seniors need to be more informed and attentive than ever. Understanding that these changes are part of a larger process can help you see them as manageable rather than catastrophic. As this explanation comes to a close, the most important takeaway is awareness. Social Security Administration notices explaining unannounced payment changes are not something to ignore, but they are also not something to fear blindly. They are signals that something in your benefit record has been reviewed or updated. By reading carefully, understanding the reason for the change, and knowing your options, you protect yourself and your financial stability. For seniors living on fixed incomes, clarity is just as valuable as money. Understanding what is happening with your Social Security benefits helps you plan, adapt, and stay in control. These notices may not have been announced loudly, but now you know how to read them, respond to them, and protect yourself. That understanding is what turns confusion into confidence and uncertainty into informed action.